Hello, this is Brian from the Bad Manners podcast. I ran across a video from a creator named Maxwell Unscripted. The title of it caught my eye. It says, "Something is off about people nowadays." I am curious to see what direction he's going to go with this, so let's get into it.
Something is not quite right with a lot of people nowadays, and I feel like a lot of people are starting to notice this. I think more and more you get exceedingly, I don't want to say just weird, but you get a off feeling when you speak to somebody, and it's not always the same thing. This is why I can't exactly put my finger what is the one problem. Why do I feel this way about a lot of people? I think it's a lot of different problems sort of converging at once. A bunch of different problems that are accelerating very quickly and plaguing so many different people, because it's not always just one thing that is off-putting about a person. It's
Before he launches into the different possibilities, one worth mentioning is if your IQ is 2 standard deviations above a person you're talking to, you're going to find it extraordinarily difficult to relate to them in conversation because the speed that each person's brain is working at is very different. So the nature of the conversations you're going to have with that person are going to be significantly different than the kind of edification you're hoping to get from a lively intellectual discussion.
sometimes it's the way that they speak or the things that they talk about. Sometimes it's like their lack of critical thinking, their lack in ability of being able to challenge their own beliefs, like whether it be political, right? Honestly, most of the time it's political. When people can't seem to challenge those beliefs and they only take one stance of one side and they can't think for themselves, it just is so weird to talk to those types of people, like to get in conversations with them. Sometimes you can't even conversate really with people.
If you're running across people that are not able to effectively articulate their beliefs and then examine them or play devil's advocate with them and really test them, it's usually a good indication that it's one of two things. Number one, they've never really bothered to engage in any degree of introspection. They just culturally absorb those beliefs. And people develop this odd tendency to attach importance to the emotional importance to these culturally transmitted ideas. The second possibility, of course, is, again, it can just be an IQ problem. If you're dealing with a person low enough in IQ, they're not going to be able to hold those conversations.
You know, like in school sometimes, in different classes, you try to talk to someone and like they just can't. I don't know if we've gotten to a level of social anxiety or I don't even know what it is, but it's like you can't hold a conversation with them. You know, they won't even, they're not passing the ball back to you. They're not.
Could be social anxiety. Could also be social atomization. Uh, with the generations as they've gone on, the generations have become less and less community based. Therefore, there's far less socialization that even some rural person in the 50s, at least they would have gone to church, for example, interacted with everybody. And even just by that, they would have achieved more socialization than what you'll find the common person engaging in now. And of course, social media is where a lot of them get their whatever feeling of socializing that they need.
Asking questions. They're not looking you in the eye. Like the baseline has dropped so low in terms of what other people bring to the table socially. Like even just being able to conversate. And then there's even the level above that, like being able to think. Like having a competent person to have an intelligent conversation with, it feels like it's next to near impossible to find other people that are like that.
Even among highly intelligent folks, you will find some that just don't care to talk. They would rather spend their time in their own head. So, for this one, it's not necessarily IQ related. But again, the lower you go, the less likely it is they're going to show interest in these kinds of intellectual pursuits.
And I know I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel, but I've talked about it with people in real life, other people that I believe to be smarter and to be more, have higher critical thinking, and they say the same exact thing. it's most people they talk to, it's like you cycle through the same topics. People are never thinking about anything higher. And even some people, it's like impossible to communicate with them. It's something so weird. It's like they are so, and this sounds horrible, but their cognition is so low, their level of thinking is so low, that there is nothing to really go back and forth on with a certain person. Like, all they do is consume the most horrible slop. All they do is eat the worst junk food. They consume the most brain dead, brain rot things. And what this does to a person, I think it genuinely makes their brain underdeveloped. Like,
Yeah, actually, it's not just a thought. They've been looking at the effects of recent generations and their constant use of screen time, or perhaps use of AI in lieu of doing actual academic work themselves. Their brains are different, but not different in a good way. Uh, they're exhibiting a kind of lack of neuroplasticity that you would expect in an individual that is actively engaged in intellectual pursuits. And unfortunately, the younger you are while developing this kind of intellectual rigidity, because you're not pursuing learning regularly, the more likely it is to become particularly aggressive as an adult, because the brain at that point is going to be more resistant to learning things. So what he's seeing is not just an idea, it is reflected in the literature.
they cannot even bring themselves to think or act on a higher level when your action is constantly in sin and degeneracy and in just brain rot, like slop. Think about like a pig that's constantly eating slop. They get fat, they get slow, and like you get fat, slow, and dumb. And yeah, that sounds horrible to say, but that is a lot more people nowadays. Like, something is just weird about some people. And you can't always figure out what it is, but it's always like a mix of one of these one things. They can't speak to you in a normal way. They can't hold a conversation, or there's nothing intelligent that they have to say, or they constantly talk about themselves. They never pass the ball back to you. And yo, what are you doing? Like, what have you been? It's like you're talking either to nobody or you're talking to a brick wall. Or
If you combine poor socialization skills, because they were never properly socialized, with low intelligence, that is one heck of a combo to have a person that starts to look more like a vegetable than a person.
they're talking to you like, like they never give you a chance to even speak or question or anything. And obviously these are all different things and different problems that people will have, but it feels like almost everybody at least has one of these. You know what I mean? Has like one of these parasites in their lives where socially you can't go deeper with them, or you can't even talk to them, or they're talking so much to you that they're talking at you, right? And you never even get to get into the conversation or talk to them or even like say anything when they are the one that's just munching up the entire conversation. And at that point, what is it? That's not a conversation. That's like they're just talking to. They might as well talk to an inanimate object at that point. You might as well just be staring at a wall, because you don't get to have any interaction. And again, it's like that's not everybody. Like, those are different problems for different people. But where are the critical thinkers? Where are the free thinkers?
They've always been a minority in any society. You can even go back to the successful civilizations in history. The number of people that actually constituted the so-called thinking class was always ever a minority. Um, they've noticed a phenomena where you can have a person that is a genius level intellect, and then they procreate, and their offspring, rather than being genius level too, have a tendency to regress back to the mean. The truth of the matter is, among the humans that procreate, there's a reason that the IQ ends up having a heavy concentration right in the middle. For the United States, of course, that's 100 IQ. But if you are a high performer, and this young man, I think, may well be on that side of things, you're going to be a relative minority, and it's going to be relatively lonely.
Where are the people that aren't always falling into line with the crowd? Because I'm telling you, and I had a whole long conversation with one of my friends about this, but people genuinely find you to be so weird and they shun you and they look down upon you, or they think that you think you're better than them for doing things a certain way. Like if you're not drinking, if you're not conforming with the crowd by going to parties, if you're not, always talking about girls, if you're not, or if you're doing something that's different, right? If you're trying to chase and build some sort of business or do social media, they look at you like you are an alien. And they think that you are such a weird person and you're so corny for doing all that. But they are the ones that are doing nothing themselves. They aren't trying to push themselves. They aren't trying to improve. They have no skills, nothing discernible about them. They conform so much and try to be so much like everyone else, be cool, nonchalant.
So one thing to keep in mind for this kind of things, that this idea of trying to improve and get better, there are certain traits that are just generally rare for people. Autodidactic humans or self-teachers, which are people that want to make themselves better than they formerly were, they're the exception and not the rule. Most people learn things because they are essentially forced to by their environment, not because they necessarily want to. There will forever be an overwhelming part of humanity that, so long as their basic needs are being met, therefore their survival is assured, they will gladly engage in base behaviors from the beginning to the end of their life, and being perfectly happy in the doing. So there's a saying, rising tide lifts all ships. It's been a tiny, tiny fraction of men over the course of uh, all of human history that are the ones that are responsible for dragging their civilizations forward. And just as it was true back then, it's just as true now.
That there is nothing unique in any way about them. And I've said this before, but there are so many copy and paste people that will think you are the weird one. You are the one that is like corny when they're the corniest person trying to be like everyone else and trying to be so cool and fit in. It's like you are the one. What you're making fun of me about is what I should be making fun of you about. But like obviously, I'm not gonna do that. I understand people like their things. People like to consume. People like their labubus and their whatever it might be, bro. Like people love their things and they love to be accepted by others and have other people think them cool and they love their popularity.
Humans are a social animal. These behaviors allow them to eventually procreate and pass on their genes. So despite the criticisms you have regarding it, there's a reason that, at least within the perspective of humanity, R selection and K selection does to some extent apply to humans as well. Well, those that are high investment into their offspring have fewer offspring. The overwhelming majority that are not of the overthink things variety or the trying to be better variety, they simply will overwhelm with numbers. So that's why you run into the phenomena that, yes, what you call copy-paste people, that is humanity. And it's worked to make sure the species has continued existing. So there's some value in it.
But why does it have to be so many people? It's like, where are my people at? And I feel like if you're still watching this video at this point, you relate to what I say. You yourself, you probably understand that you like to think on a deeper level. You like to act on a more substantive level, right? You like actually do things with your life. You spend your time in an intentional way trying to level up your skills, build something. And it's like you're made fun of. You're looked at different. You feel weird for doing that, even though that is the highest form that everyone should be rising to as a human, to better their character, to better their lives, and improve themselves.
This is a classic version of the is-ought problem. It ought to be the case that everybody is attempting to, achieve self-actualization, maximize the most of what God-given abilities that they have. But the truth is, a lot of people will never reach that self-actualization stage. If for no other reason than it's, strictly speaking, it is not necessary for humans to continue existing as a species. So the reality of what is humanity as a whole does not tend to err on the side of aspiring to greatness. In those few instances that humanity ever effectively pulls that off, Those are usually your great civilizations, and even great civilizations are usually buoyed by a few outliers that made substantial advances for the cause of their people.
It's like you start talking about faith or God and people look at you weird. You start talking about the things that you're trying to do and like building your skills, and people they can't even understand it. And so you have to like you have to hide who you are and almost regress back into a lower level of thinking. And again, that sounds arrogant and horrible. And like I think I'm better than these people. I don't. I understand everyone goes through their problems and everyone has their own point for waking up to certain things. But then again, it's like, when are people going to wake up?
They're not.
When are the people around me going to wake up to all their degeneracy, their hedonism, all the problems that are eating away at their life every single day?
So the easiest way to gain an insight into why it functions this way is these people engaging in the hedonism and the degeneracy and everything of that like. It is the path of least resistance, and it is extraordinarily pleasurable to them. The people that pursue the path of self-actualization, that is a difficult path, and yes, hypothetically, the rewards waiting at the end will be all the sweeter once you reach that peak. It is an arduous task. The process of learning new skills or acquiring new knowledge, it's time consuming. It's arduous. Obviously, the more intelligent you are, the faster you'll acquire those skills and knowledge. But such a trek is only for people that are willing to some degree, endure discomfort. And if you give the average human being a choice of enduring discomfort for hypothetical payoff later, or taking the pleasure right in front of them now, even if there is a potential cost to them later, you will find more often than not that humanity prefers the path of immediate pleasure.
When is the change? When is the mental switch going to happen? Because it feels like it's not happening anytime soon, but maybe I'm hoping that this movement that I'm trying to be a part of, that other people are making videos and doing these things, trying to help other people and level up people's cognition and their action. I hope that there is some sort of movement that is changing that, but it almost is like I can't tell in real life. It feels like things seems to only get worse, whether it be politically, the way that people think, the way that people talk, the type of stupid brain rot memes that go around, the degeneracy that I see.
Obviously, this is a young man, so he is facing the unique problems that Gen Z are confronted with. He is living in perhaps the most morally decadent civilization to have ever existed. The specter of, survival just being difficult, has been entirely washed away. Survival, even if you are poor in a Western country, is easier than it was for even many rich people in ancient civilizations. And because survival has become so automatic, it sort of saps a vigor and vitality that would come from your actions having more of a clearly understood purpose. If survival is harder to come by, then every action you have has more meaning, and you derive some sense of purpose and satisfaction of your life from just pursuing your own survival. Effectively, this moral decadence that he is surrounded by and will probably be surrounded by for many decades to follow is just a sad reflection of what previous empires have gone through, where they had their rise, where all of their actions were contributing to this greater whole, and then things begin to stagnate briefly, and then you begin the gradual decline down. Because during the decline, there might be still some problems to solve, but you're not building towards anything at that point. It's now become more of an internal concern. And then, once every problem that's meaningful has been solved, the decadence kicks in and accelerates the fall until eventually everything collapses and the cycle begins anew. I've said it in other videos, this is why I think if Gen Z were to burn the existing structures to the ground and create something better suited to their needs, it'd be understandable. But I do admire him for attempting to rise above the moral decadence that he finds himself surrounded by.
It's just so off-putting to be like, this is the most off-putting thing, and this is really the way that I feel and what I really wanted to say in this video. The most off-putting thing to me is that other people are so entrenched in their degeneracy, so entrenched in their pleasure, their lustful thoughts, that they cannot comprehend that what you are doing, trying to improve yourself, trying to build things in your life, is not weird and cringe and something that they shouldn't do. It's actually something that we should be aspiring towards. People are aspiring more towards being a degenerate, towards partying and drinking and having casual sex and playing video games all day and doom scrolling, than they actually are to anything real of substance. To God, to Christ, to anything higher or above them, to goals or achievements that they actually want to chase in their life, to interests that they really care about and think matter, to people that they love.
They don't want to suffer. So when they see you, they think that you're cringe because you are pursuing a path that in aspiring to this greatness, you are going to some degree encounter hardships and suffering. And they find no reason to indulge in that, even if the reward at the end may be worth it. It's just not the interest of the common person.
It's so backwards. That's what I think in all ways. That's what the converging factor is, that everything seems to be backwards right now. People seem to not care about what is important and to care so much, so deeply, and be so entrenched in all the things that don't matter. The consumerism, the lust, the sin. It feels like it's rampant, and it feels like everyone in some way is deeply rooted in them, and it affects them to such a great level that I cannot connect with people on a level that I feel I should be able to. Like, we have lost it. Should it not be a basic human understanding and ability to be able to connect with another person intellectually, to be able to talk about things that are a little bit deeper below the surface, to be able to analyze and critically think? Should this not be a basic human ability? I feel like it should be.
And it would be, if there were meaningful problems in these people's lives that they felt needed to be solved. You would suddenly find yourself much more surrounded by the people that you wish you were surrounded by. But in decadent times, people like you are going to be a minority.
I feel like what is normalized now is the most degenerate, horrible stuff, and people are like, "No, it's fine. It's fine. You know, I sleep around with these many guys. It's fine." Like, what are you talking about? And then for some reason, it's seen as the most weird, different thing to be what should be normal. It should be normal to think. It should be normal to want to improve yourself. It should be normal to chase something higher and above you, whether it be, God, Jesus, some sort of faith, something more than yourself. But it feels like that is so abnormal to even speak about nowadays to the average person. They don't get it.
Interestingly, he's mentioned faith in Jesus Christ and God a few times. That aspiring to be better is very much embedded in the Christian belief system. And obviously, it's mainly concerned with trying to be better from the perspective of, being more like Jesus Christ in terms of your actions and thoughts. With Christianity having significantly diminished in prestige and influence over the past 3-4 decades, because it used to still hold quite a degree of cultural power going in the 80s. It had already begun to wane in the 90s and was already pretty well dethroned as a significant factor in the 2000s. If you're dealing with somebody that's non-Christian, these ideas are actually going to be innately foreign, because they are not normal ideas that are divined from the ether in a person, absent a pre-existing belief structure that promotes the need to be better than you are now. So clearly the individual making this video, he feels this genuine need to be something more than he is. To a heavy extent, his religious belief, that I'm assuming he has, informs that decision. If you look at it from the perspective of an atheist, why try to be something more if this life should just be an endless hedonist pursuit? If the goal in life for an atheist is the maximization of pleasure and the minimization of suffering and pain, the actions become more easily understandable. So,
And why do they not get it? I mean, why am I even asking why? I know why, but it's so frustrating to not have other people that understand, to not have other people that feel the same way or acting in a similar way. It feels like finding a gem, a diamond in the rough. Finding someone like that, you're like, holy, like what? I'm able to talk about this with this person. They're not looking at me weird. They're actually interested in what I have to say. Like, what is going on? No way. Like, this usually never happens. That's actually the reaction to something that should be completely normal. But maybe I don't understand. I think there's a good chance that this is always how it has been, but maybe now it's just way worse and more amplified. I think that is the reality. The masses always have been distracted. The masses always have been wanting pleasure and wanting to be distracted and not wanting to think or critically think. And I know that, but I feel like the masses have grown and grown, and the ignorance has grown and grown and grown.
in this extended period of peace that I call Pax Americana, and all of the tremendous wealth that's been generated in the post-World War II era, in pretty much all countries that comprise what was formerly considered Christendom, the average character of a person in these countries is simply lower than the character you would have found in these same countries 100 years ago. Because survival was more difficult during those times. They needed to be better. But in a person needing to be better, they start to discover the virtues in being better. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
It's so much more every single day, to like the point where something is so off about the majority of people that I interact with or try to speak to, and you know for a fact that you can never speak about certain things with certain people because they wouldn't get it. Like, you'd just be talking to it's the same as talking to a wall, or even worse, they would attack you or put you down for it when you're trying to be more virtuous, you're trying to build something in your life, and they look at you weird or put you down for it. It's like, no. So then I feel like, why do I even open up or try with these other people? But I'm still going to keep trying no matter what. I mean, no matter how bad it gets, I still have hope for the future. I have hope that things will change. And I'm going to make a video about this, but maybe one day this shit is going to collapse, bro. Maybe one day society collapses and we have a reset. There has to be either a societal, a governmental, there has to be, on some level, a collapse and a reset for us to grow back stronger, right? It's when the forest burns down and grows back in a better way. Maybe that does have to happen, but I just don't know. I'm still going to go out there and try to find the people and try to make these videos and, build this into some sort of movement where people actually start thinking more and start bettering themselves, because I really do want that to happen. I do have faith. I have hope for people, and I have hope for our future. And I think I will be able to find more and more people that are similar to me or think like me, or at least just think on a deeper level. I don't even need them to be like me or do the same things I do. I just want to have some sort of real human connection that I feel like I lack with so many people nowadays. Thank you for watching this video, and as always, never stop improving.
That was a fascinating video. Clearly I'm a millennial. He's Gen Z. He's dealing with unique systemic issues compared to what I might have dealt with when I was younger. It does make me genuinely happy to see young men such as this that are on a path of self-actualization. It is my most sincere hope for his sake that he's able to either find mentor-type figures that can help him to harness his energies and maximize his desire to self-improve, but also to surround himself with people of like mind. Because at the end there, he did mention the possibility of collapse and reset, and human history being what it is certainly a possibility. Of course, it will feature its own unique attributes compared to any collapse in history. But after that collapse, the average character of a human being will have to improve if they are to survive. And the cycle will continue until the species ceases to exist. Other than that, I really enjoyed this video. I'd never heard of him before, but please give him a like, comment, subscribe if you liked his video or sympathetic to the things he had to say. If you liked anything I had to say whatsoever, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like something I said, Comment anyway. I'll discuss it with you. Have a good night.